how could it be that just 4% of Labour MPs favoured Brexit in that long campaign, and yet 52% of the electorate favoured Brexit? Why did that disconnect occur?
It's a long-standing one, in that, if you go back historically, the Labour Party has always been this coalition between working class interests, which were then thought to be represented by the trade unions, and what they called the intellectuals, the sort of Fabianites of the Labour Party, who joined together, and there was a trade-off between the two, what the policies would be. And if you look certainly to the 60s, when our vote began to unwind, because you talked about sort of the death, of the slow death of the Labour Party. My worry is it's going to be a fast death unless we act decisively. But the decline has been there in the sense that those who got these idealistic objectives of what politics is about, crucial part that actually affects the flavour of any agenda, how governments perform and so on, have become the dominant one rather than actually trying to represent those class interests. And now we've moved really, for many Labour supporters, which the Brexit vote showed, it's not a classist issue so much, although there is, but we're fed up with having the big stick of globalisation walloped on top of us and our living standards pushed down. There is this huge new agenda which is about identity, about country, about place, about borders.
And the word you haven't yet used, but is about immigration. And many of your opponents inside the Labour Party who categorically disagree with you about the future of Britain and the future of your party say that you and others who supported Brexit manipulated misleading arguments about the nature of immigration in the UK today.
Well, if that's true, it's because they weren't listening. I mean, I've been accused of being a racist from the early 2000s onwards by raising the issue. We cannot have this level of immigration. The effect that it does on the country, its identity, but also on the Labour interests, which are, generally speaking, but generally speaking, the most vulnerable in our society. It's my interest standing up for those groups. Now, right up to the last election, when we staged a meeting within the Parliamentary Labour Party over immigration, and I asked Ed Miliband, do you not see a link between us letting 5 million people in and wages pushed down, shortage for houses, can't get your own school and so on? And we're growling from some members who disapproved. Ed got up and said, couldn't see any link at all. So that's how related we were to the real world, and certainly the world of where our voters are. And then half the voters, I think, were taken out in the election, lost their seats.
When you say that you're representing the core interests of working people, surely the fundamental core interest of working people is to have a strong, growing economy. And if you look at the sorts of indicators that come from business, from the CBI, from the Chambers of Commerce, and from people who actually run businesses, they all say that the levels of immigration reflect the needs of British industry, British business, for workers, skilled workers, unskilled workers, hundreds of thousands of them that come from the EU, and frankly half of them come from outside the EU. That is what has made the British economy successful over the last decade.
The success has been bought at a price about pushing down wages. I'm actually after the whole cake, not half the cake.